All right, so welcome back. This is part 2 of Why Living Vehicle. The first video definitely delve into a lot of the construction differences, the architectural differences, the engineering differences, and this video is going to expand upon that because there's absolutely no way in one video, 2 videos, or even a month-long series to capture every single reason and every single detail that's gone into this to make it different. And you know, we'll focus on the ramp. We'll talk about some more things in a future video whenever we do the tours, but everything about this is different. That's probably the best way of saying it. Again, even if you see some familiar parts, the way they've applied those parts and the way that they've done things, it's all different. It's unique and it's really awesome. So this is a really cool video. Stay tuned for part 2 of Why Living Vehicle. Hang tight. I'll be right back. All right, so everyone knows one of my favorite things to talk about are baggage doors. I don't know why, it's the geek or nerd in me, but right. You guys have addressed that. I don't know if you prepped like years in advance knowing that this would happen.
Way too much. I mean, we've had so many problems with baggage doors. It's just a thorn in my side. I mean, how many times have I had a moldy, mildew, completely soaked baggage compartment because the water wouldn't stay out? Or I was trying to stay in sub-freezing temperatures and the baggage door was a point of failure where all that cold just came right in.
Yep, so we're going to talk about 2 things here. We can talk about sidewall thickness, and we're going to do a comparative thing here because that's going to be important, but we're also going to talk about the door. So first of all, this has to be the most robust hatch I've seen on a baggage door. This is really cool. So we got this enormous hatch that's lockable, not that you would want to lock it from the inside.
Well, that's actually a safety feature, so if someone's inside, they can get out.
Okay, well that's also nice and thoughtful.
Yeah. There's actually no story behind that.
Yeah, there's no story. Yeah. It seemed like you were queuing up a story.
We do. We get that, you know, that person with that one question of, well, what if this crazy thing? So, you know, we think of everything.
Well, that's thoughtful. Nice, super strong hinge now, or I mean, strut arm here. And I'm going to let this go real quick and stand close to it so I can knock you down because that is a very, very powerful hinge.
It is, yeah, and it's all metal. You know, we've experienced plastic struts. I mean, everything's got to be built so that it's gonna gonna last.
Yep, absolutely. So, talk to me about these baggage doors.
Sure. It's a 2-inch thick door, but it's got a 2-inch thick insulation in between, and so this is a insulated, just like all the other insulation throughout the whole unit. It's all 2 inches, so rigid insulation. This has 2 seals. So we've engineered this to keep water out with multiple redundant systems. This is basically an air equalization chamber so that any water that comes and forces through here with wind-driven rain will find a way out because water always finds a way in. The key with design is you got to give water a way to get out. And just like, I mean, whether it's the attachment points from the gas struts to how they attach here, like that's a 1/8 inch thick plate to mount it. This is all automotive grade latching mechanisms with the post and then kind of the claw style lock mechanism.
And it's thicker and more robust than you would typically see as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, just like the cabinetry, this is one of those big pain points, those failure points where you don't want to have issues with your hatches, you know, get all of your stuff in there wet, get moldy, and again cut your vacation short. This isn't getting replaced anytime soon.
Well, you brought up a few other points, and now let's close this because I want to talk about this hinge, and you've actually wrapped the hinge, which is also really nice. So you got this enormous piano hinge right here, continuous hinge, runs top to bottom, and then they've put a piece of, what is that?
It's a fabric reinforced vinyl because one of the things we found is wind-driven rain. You know, you're taking these things down the road at 55 miles an hour in California, at least. You don't want to go any faster than that. And then that's a point where water can get in and then force its way through those 2 different seals. So multiple systems to, you know, whether it's the drip edge, you know, coating this, covering this attachment points because there's a rivet line underneath there, and anytime you have a rivet, that's a point for water infiltration. So it's just, this design manifests itself over years of experience and then having so many problems with hatches.
Yep. Well, one thing too to bring up is the fact you talk about water will find a way in.
Yes.
Get it.
Always.
But at the same time, water doesn't necessarily need to find a way in. Water can form inside of things through condensation.
Condensation and humidity and just,
Giving it an escape path is super important because if you don't, it's going to turn to mold and mildew, and it's going to end up as weatherproof and as aluminum as this is, you can still develop mold.
And that's one of the things with our walls. I mean, this is, like, feel that's robust. And on the inside of that is a 1-inch air gap, intentionally designed for free airflow. So from the bottom to the top, you have a 1-inch air gap. So even if you do get water into these seams, you have a space for water to make its way out the bottom of the trailer here.
So first of all, these doors are superior to anything else I've seen on any RV, whether it's all the way up to a Prevost, which usually has about 1.5 inch thick door. This is a superior door to anything else I've seen. So you can't compare this to anything under $200,000. It's just in a whole nother league. But you can say that the ones you can compare this to, this still is a better quality door than you would get on even the highest end motor coaches.
Well, you can't get this. This is all custom manufactured. You know, this isn't a door you can order.
Now, the second piece of this is 3-inch thick sidewalls.
Sure.
We know that there's a handful of other manufacturers that produce a 3-inch thick sidewall. Some are very reputable brands. Some are like New Horizons, Lux, DRV. 3-inch thick sidewalls are nothing new. But what you said is, earlier, you have 2 inches of foam and you have an air gap. Now, this is what's super important. When people see a brick home, is the brick actually resting against the OSB? It's not. It's off the side by by 1.5 inches or so to create an air gap for exactly what you're saying.
So this is the thermal heat transfer.
Yep.
So you need a thermal break, and the larger that thermal break, the better. I mean, on an Airstream, one of my experiences, anytime I take an Airstream, I get close to freezing temperatures. Every 24 inches, you have a rib. And then there's a direct heat. They'll say that they'll put a little bit of thermal break tape, you know, like a VHB tape on there to break that thermal transfer. But we put a 2-inch complete wrapped insulation barrier on the inside of the wall. So it's a moment frame structure every 12 inches with a custom wide flange beam, which is the stud, a stud, not a beam. And then that is what truly separates the heat from the inside to the outside and gives that prevention of transfer. And so the inside, that's metal. That will be the temperature of the indoor space. So you have a very nice, warm, inviting environment when the outside could be, you know, -4 degrees.
Yeah, another thing about that, because the material is aluminum, on the inside, you know, you don't want to touch it and have it be super hot or super cold. And so that accounts for that.
Nope, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're taking the best of residential construction in some ways, and it's not really residential.
It's not even
just
residential.
engineering.
Yeah,
it's the proper type
it's
of
more like
engineering.
a product, you know, industrial product design, where you know, it's more like a commercial style of construction where you have, you know, high-rise towers and that type of you know, the weep screen with the walls, and then there's a lot of technology that goes into high-rise construction. So this is kind of graduated off of that style of architecture, you know, whereas, you know, I'd say a lot of the RV industry comes off of residential type of architecture, and so it's just a whole other way to build things.
Yep, and sometimes sometimes the RV industry sees things as what they feel is best for that industry, and quite frankly, it's not. It's just the cheapest way to do it. That still nets you a good end result. Foam infused doors or foam infused walls where you have, you know, Asdel, then you have foam, and then you have Asdel on the inside, which is a great structure. But there's no air gap.
Yeah.
That thermal break doesn't exist.
Correct.
And you guys engineer it into a 3-inch thick sidewall, because you very well could have saved that cost by making it a 2-inch thick wall with just foam like everyone else does.
And then the absence of one thing that I cannot stand is caulking. You know, caulking is ubiquitous in the RV industry, and it's just the way that things go together. And where materials join is a passion of ours. And so you have this detail, this obsession with details, where you have one material that meets a corner, and then how that comes together and that's finished off. It's designed in a way that it's architectural. It's specifically engineered to where we didn't just put two materials, butt them up to another kind of a corner, and then caulk the corner to finish it off.
So people are going to ask, you do still have an adhesive back here, or at least a foam, right? Adhesive.
Yep. So there's a tape on, you know, that's the water kind of barrier, but that's protected from any UV or any kind of environmental conditions on the outside. So that's so specific that it's, I mean, every inch of this thing has been designed from and engineered from that detail level perspective.
Well, and your tolerance is being so close that it's a lifetime material, because again, it's never going to be exposed to UV or the elements.
Yep. I mean, look at the mitered corners on the way that we put this together. You know, in the way that all that comes together right there. I mean, that's the obsessive level of quality that we're after here.
Yeah, and just an example of how we don't cut corners, right? Again, it's every single, every single decision, right? So imagine what the structure, the foundation, you know, the wiring, and I think we'll show that in another video of all the guts of it. It's what you don't see that really matters, and that's what a lot of all the other manufacturers skip over, right? It's let's make all the stuff you see pretty, and with the illusion that it's quality and that it's, you know, functional, when it's really not.
Yep, and there's a lot of places that, because these other RVs are built on these mass production lines with hundreds of employees building them, you'll never see an edge like that that's been sanded down. It's always sharp. There's always sharp edges everywhere that at the end of the day, you have this cut on your hand. You're like, where did that even come from?
Sure.
And it's because something that was just missed or wasn't produced well or wasn't overseen well, just it makes it through the cracks because they didn't even see a crack existed.
Well, and that's part of our quality check. So in the beginning, I would go around and say, this is sharp. I don't like this. This is not acceptable. And we built that into our system.
Yep. Well, that's awesome. Well, we could probably go on for a month just talking about additional things, but the main point of this video was to talk about areas that mattered, why people are going to go like, if I'm going to spend that much money on an RV, what am I really getting that's different? Everything.
Yeah.
The way you've approached everything in here is different. You have some standardized parts, like I said, Moride step above steps. The torsion flex axles are Dexter, very good quality, high-end axle. Tires, believe it or not, I've never actually seen these tires on an RV. This is a Toyo tire,
Yep.
and it's a 17.5 or 19.5 inch. So they're
Yep.
running a 19.5 inch wheel and tire. This is the same thing you're going to see on like an F450,
Yep.
and not really even an F450 because this is a better tire than you get on the F450.
Yeah, commercial grade kind of a, this, I guess this would be the one with, this is the on-highway version. So this is a, commercial style tire.
Yep, you see cost that goes into areas that you would never really think about, but then you have to look at this and be like, man, they even went with a higher end strip LED. They went with higher end this and that, but then you'll see like the Lippert dual pane windows. It's a good window, and you guys are even looking at the acrylic windows beyond this to go with a higher end
And we're
window.
constantly evolving. We're changing the things first that matter. Not redesigning or over-engineering for just the sake of it, just to look different or to be different. So we're saying, okay, this stuff works, let's keep that, but let's focus on the things that matter most to create the change that's needed from the ground up. And then we'll continue to march forward on every one of these areas.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's interesting because we do get the feedback sometimes that, oh, this is too heavy, it's overbuilt, blah, blah, blah. It's not, these things that we've talked about, you're not going to have problems with these things. These things are not going to break. So do you want something that is maybe better than it needs to be and enjoying your adventure? Or do you want to, pay?
Yep, you're making a great point. It's overbuilt.
It is
Any way you
absolutely
slice it. And there's
overbuilt.
nothing wrong with that. It does drive the price up because you're paying for something that's true quality through and through, and it's not going to be for everybody. That's the key here. It's overbuilt. It is absolutely a unit that when you look at it, because I've looked at it, and I've looked at thousands of RVs, and I look at this and I'm like, did they need to do that? No. But would you love to have it done if you could on your dream RV? Yes. And that's the super important part to remember about this is it's not for everybody. A lot of people watching this video are probably in the process of typing a comment saying it's too expensive, it's this and that, but everybody would love to have their RV built like this. That's what it comes down to. And what you're demonstrating is that there's a cost to have an RV built like this.
And I think that's really what, I love most, that we're showing folks a different way to do things. This isn't for everyone, and not everyone's going to buy this. That's fine. But we're showing the industry another way of doing things.
Yep.
And we're, modeling. And I love the fact that we can show folks that you don't have to compromise on quality. And if, other manufacturers decide to take on these means and methods and can see things differently and can put quality first, then, I'm hallelujah.
Well, that's the problem. They're not going to because they need to produce tons and tons and tons of units. They have quotas. They have to hit those quotas. They have shareholders. They have people that they have to appease and make happy, and typically that means quantity over quality.
Yep.
And even though all of them would like to have a better quality unit, and there are some areas that they've been improving, the fact is, as long as you have to be beholden to stockholders and people, you have to put out as much product as possible. One-piece aluminum roof. That's not unheard of in like the race car trailer industry,
right?
But it is unheard of in the RV industry, where typically a TPO or a vinyl or some type of a PVC roof that's pulled over is the norm because it creates a solid one-piece membrane. And then the second side is on some brands like DRV or Lux, you can get a fiberglass roof, which is a solid fiberglass roof. Both of those aren't going to be as durable as this roof. One solid piece. So talk about the roof real quickly before we wrap this video up.
Yeah, best part about this roof, like you said, one solid sheet of aluminum, 24-foot unit. This is a 8.5 foot by 24 foot long single sheet of aluminum through and through. There is a trim. It's a very high gauge custom trim cap that runs all the way around the unit. It's structural. It's part of the structural system. And where that single sheet of roof attaches to that trim cap is so thick that the rivets that attach that sheet to the trim itself embed and terminate within the thickness of that trim cap. So you don't actually have any penetrations of rivets, so no place for the water to actually get in on that transition. And then it just kind of falls down the side of this. So, I mean, that's most of it's covered with solar panels, but the parts that are uncovered, that's where you're going to get most of the damage. UV, it destroys kind of EPDM or built up roofs, or any of the fiberglass. You're going to see wear and tear over time, and we want to build something right from the very beginning, because if you're going to invest in something like this, you need a great foundation and a great roof, and everything in between. Sorry, I get excited.
And that's one of the things, leaks from roofs are one of the number one things that we saw when we were doing our customizations, and the number one thing that kind of kills a trip, right? Once you get a leak, like, your insulation is messed up, the wood, right? All that beautiful wood, now you have mold growing. That's a foundational issue.
Sometimes you don't even catch it until it's too bad.
Right, and that's the problem, right? Yeah, because leaks are hidden. You don't know where they start. They make their way across the unit, and it doesn't matter how much money you put in a unit if you have water coming down and damaging the structure.
Yep, and the thing I want to point out before we wrap up this video is almost everywhere that you look, you can say, well, one brand's doing something similar, and you'll find out that they're not. You'll find out they may be doing something similar dimensionally, but it doesn't mean from a quality, application, engineering, or architecture perspective that it was the right way to go, or that it even compares. Every single thing we've talked about, from thermal transfer to where things are, how they're done, you've addressed from what I love, the architectural standpoint of when you're building homes for people, you have to think about this.
Yep.
You really have to think about that. So you're not transferring residential concepts to an RV, you're transferring engineered concepts to an RV. If they worked for a residential industry, well, and they work for the RV industry, why not just bring it into play so you have the best possible engineered built home on wheels?
Yeah, like
Really
we
cool.
said, this is a vehicle first, but it's designed to live in. So it is that perfect combination of something that can withstand traveling, but then once you're spending in time inside of it and using it, it's actually, feels like home.
Absolutely. Any final words before we wrap up the video?
I think you did a great job wrapping it up. Thanks, Jerry.
And the reality is they could go on for another hour if I didn't constantly give them cues that, man, this video is getting really, really long. So they're passionate. That's what really matters. And that passion has materialized into a product that shows that passion. You guys have the opportunity here to show off what that passion is, just like a chef who wants to make a certain type of meal and show that passion in their cooking so people can enjoy it. Well, this is your meal. You guys are a chef of a phenomenally built, very well executed. It's expensive, not gonna lie, but you pay for that steak. And that's what they're getting here.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
there's nothing that we're hiding here. Like, go up close to everything. Every single detail we've thought of and we're proud of, and the people who built them are just as passionate as we are.
And you're evolving. So it's not as if you're just standing on your laurels going that this is it and we've done it from here on. There's a video where we're going to show some of the stuff you guys are doing with water that is amazing. It absolutely is. And the next video is going to talk about the technology that goes into every living vehicle, and you got to stay tuned for that one. So guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. I think this is probably one of the most important videos to watch if you're considering, or if you just even want to understand why they cost what they cost and what they're doing, because everything is different. Everything is different. Even though some standardized parts, that's just because it makes sense. The parts are great already, they don't fail, and if you can get that without having to re-engineer and add additional cost to the unit, just go ahead and do that. But new baggage doors were needed. Better frame, better construction, better insulation. This is all what was needed. A better step system wasn't needed, because that's a really good step system. So yeah, definitely, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon, and thank you so much for having me out here.